Okay, so I have just dumped in a couple of images here into my main results section, and something that can be difficult to do is to get several images aligned nicely and equal size. I recommend that you cut and paste them from the right size from SPSS just to make sure that these headings are able to be read and don't get too small. If you want to make sure that each graphic is the same size, it's easier to enter that via the keyboard. You can drag things around, and this is what I'll do if I'm doing it quickly. If you are just dragging things around, then always drag from the corners so that it stays in proportion. If you start dragging from the sides, you get stuff looking a bit wonky, a bit squished. I should probably undo that. So I know that I had this one 7 by 7 centimeters. So if I click on this one and say size and position, I can just make that exactly 7 centimeters, and then I know that these two are the same size. If you want to have a number of pictures together and you need to keep them laid out neatly, I find it handy to use invisible tables to format things, and this is often what's used in web design to keep things laid out. So I would go to Insert Table, and let's say I had another couple of pictures I wanted to dump in. So I will take that out of there and pop it into my table. Take that one out and pop that in, and maybe I had a couple of others I wanted to put in as well. Now I don't necessarily want the lines for my table, that's a little bit distracting, so I can click on the table, go to the design layout and borders, and just make the borders invisible, so pick the no border option. So I don't want to see the table, I just want to use it to make things line up nicely. Now that I have my figures, I should be captioning all of them. I may want, if I've got a lot of figures and tables, I may want to have next to my table of contents, I may want a table of figures as well. That's not necessary in all reports. So if I want to add a caption to this one, I can right click and say Insert Caption. I usually just leave it at the default, and I'll put in a brief description of my figure, and this might be something like mean and confidence interval plot for words recalled. I'll just describe what I've got there. Now you'll see that it has automatically numbered this, and it's always best to stick with the automatic numbering that Word gives it, because then it will always fix it up for you. So if I put one figure in and then decide actually I need another one before it, if I add a caption into this one, you can see that it can detect that it's earlier in the document. It now becomes figure 1, and this one now becomes figure 2. So this saves you a lot of time in fixing things up. Insert caption. I'm just going to leave that blank. I can come through later and add stuff in here if I want. Insert caption. Add something in there. Now they're all numbered properly. If I decide to take one out and delete the caption, it'll renumber them. So if I wanted to have a table of figures to list them all out at the beginning of the document, computer keeps freezing. I may want that underneath the table of contents or on a fresh page, depending on how long it is, but that will be under the references to and insert table of figures. And again, I'm just going to stick with all the defaults, and then I feel like there's fewer things that can go wrong. If I go through and actually write in proper captions, I will need to right click and update my table of figures. It's not letting me do that there, so, and I don't know why it doesn't give you an automatic heading for this, but it doesn't, so I'll add that in there. Table of figures. So let's just try changing one of the captions and checking that it updates properly. So mean and confidence intervals 95% confidence intervals for words recalled. And I'll go back up to the top. Update table. I'm going to update the entire table. So I'm sure that used to show up when I would right click it. For whatever reasons it's not, but there is this update table link here. I do find that with each version of Word things get moved around just a little bit, so depending on which version of Word you're using you may have to hunt around to find what I'm doing. It'll all still be there somewhere, and again I'm sure it used to be that you could right click to do that. You can for that one, but there'll be a command somewhere to do it. So that's my table of figures. Could probably do the same thing with a table of tables if I needed to, but hopefully I won't have that many tables.